Welcome. Today we will talk about one of the most important artists of Western art. His name was Giotto di Bondone, and he is best known for the way he explored the possibilities of perspective and pictorial space. He lived during the end of the Middle Ages, but some critics consider him the first Renaissance artist. This is because he was the first to bring together religious antiquity and the developing idea of humanism. His subjects were strictly religious, but the way he depicted them was new. His figures were infused with an emotional quality not seen before in high art, and his architectural settings respected the laws of proportion and perspective, which had not been explored before. Art during the Middle Ages was in fact flat and lacking in human emotion. The dominant styles of the time, such as Byzantine and Gothic, emphasized formalism over realism. Figures were depicted in a highly stylized manner, with little attention paid to their individuality, and no connection to the human experience. Giotto's art was a breath of fresh air in this context, as it broke away from these conventions and focused on realistic depictions of human figures and emotions. A good example is Giotto's crucifix. Earlier artists had usually depicted the crucifixion with a triumphant Christ, who stands erect and seems to look proudly out from the cross, like the one on the left. Giotto, however, focuses on the pathos of the scene and encourages the viewer to empathize with Christ's suffering. Christ's body hangs heavily from the cross, as might an actual human body. His head bows as a sign of emotional suffering. The muscles in his arms appear painfully stretched, and his stomach sags uncomfortably towards his feet. The expression "the student has become the master" could not be more appropriate for Giotto. He was in fact a student of Cimabue, the most outstanding painter in Italy at the end of the 13th century. Cimabue had already tried to break through the stylized forms of medieval art, but he did not fully succeed. It was Giotto who, certainly inspired by Cimabue, managed to really revive the art of painting, introducing naturalism and emotions in his works. Giotto and Cimabue worked at Assisi, the birthplace of the Catholic Saint Francis, founder of the Franciscan religious order. Assisi is a popular destination for pilgrims, but you don't have to be religious to appreciate the town's beautiful scenery. In the Great Double Church of San Francesco there are many frescoes, but it is difficult for historians to tell which ones were painted by Giotto. Most of them agree that a cycle of 28 scenes from the life of Saint Francis can be attributed to Giotto. The majority of these scenes, mostly narrative, are revolutionary in their expression of reality and humanity. In these frescoes, the emphasis is on the dramatic moment of each situation, and the inner reality of human emotion is intensified through crucial gestures and glances. In the same church, Giotto most likely painted this fresco too, which is part of a cycle of narratives from the Old Testament. This work reveals the innovative technique of rendering believable space between human figures. Giotto places the figures in an interior that has spatial depth. He also adds numerous details of casual daily life to make the scene more approachable, like the curtain at the back, and the rumpled sheets at the end of the bed. The same scene would have looked much flatter and simpler if it had been painted by an earlier medieval artist. Lamentation is widely considered to be one of Giotto's true masterpieces. In this fresco Jesus' disciples and relatives mourn his death, with Mary cradling her son's head, and Mary Magdalene at his feet. Giotto paints the figures in a state of deep grief, with expressions and body language that convey a sense of profound sadness and loss. This fresco is also notable for its use of space and depth, with the figures arranged in a way that creates a sense of three-dimensional space. It is a powerful example of Giotto's ability to bring his figures to life, and his innovative approach to perspective and composition. Giotto was probably the first painter to understand the importance of creating space and depth within his works, and he often included architectural details to create a more realistic sense of setting. It was perhaps inevitable that at some point in his later career he would turn to architectural design directly. 3 years before he died, he designed the bell tower of the Cathedral of Santa Maria del Fiore in Florence. He only managed to construct the lower floor before he died in 1337, and the project was completed by artists such as Pisano and Brunelleschi. The tower is widely considered to be the most beautiful campanile in Italy. Giotto's approach to art provided inspiration for the Florentine Renaissance and, more widely, art throughout Europe. Following his intervention, realism and naturalism became the new standards in European art, and his influence can be seen in the work of artists such as Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci. So, do you like Giotto's art? Do you think his legacy continues to shape the way we think about art and the human experience? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel.